What is the most expensive thing you've ever bought? Most probably it's not animal related. Yet this video will shock you with more details about the most expensive animals in the world.
One day, a duck called Big Dave was up for auction.
An award-winning Muscovy drake that frequented the breeder shows, he was a fine specimen. He's got a very nice temperament. He's always clean. He's always looked after himself, and when you show him, he does like to be center of attention. His owner Graham Hicks told the BBC at the time. Others couldn't help but agree. Big Dave is a big character, said Janice Horton-Wallace, a fellow breeder and secretary of the Turkey Club UK, and has always seemed to have a great rapport with Graham. But Hicks was due to retire from breeding,
so was reluctantly selling Dave, along with his other ducks, geese and birds.
There were rumors that breeders from overseas were looking to acquire the drake for the potential of his bloodline. As the auction began, though, there was surprise. Unknown to Hicks, Horton-Wallace had assembled a syndicate, who had clubbed together to buy Dave. She entered the bidding at £900.
$1,250 per €1,050.
But the price continued to rise.
After she placed the final bid,
the room went quiet, and it seemed like forever before the hammer went down, she recalled. She had won, with a bid of £1,500. $2,070 per €1,760. A record-breaking sum for a duck. The syndicate promptly gave Dave back to Hicks. The plan all along was to reunite the pair as a
retirement gift.
We both sobbed on each other's shoulders afterwards, Horton-Wallace recalled. That day, Dave became the world's most expensive duck, joining a select club of Earth's most valuable animals. But while he could lay claim to be the diamond of ducks, there are many other species that are worth a great deal more. So, what are the world's most expensive animals? How do you even define the term? The answers are more complex than first appears. Before we explore these questions, it's worth acknowledging that ranking living creatures by their cost might feel a little fatuous to some, and even distasteful.
Should animals be given economic value at all?
Is it okay to put a price on a living, breathing creature? As we'll discover later, there are certainly some who object to assigning economic prices to nature and wild creatures. Yet the reality is, animals have always been a part of human economies. And the way people value some more than others can reveal striking truths about the world that we live in. Particularly so if you look at the prices people have been willing to pay for them. Some of the most mind-boggling numbers can be found in the world of agriculture,
where trading animals is commonplace.
Consider one of the most ubiquitous farm creatures, the sheep. By some estimates, there are maybe 1 billion sheep in the world, and most of them are not worth very much. But somewhere in the UK, there's a unique lamb called Double Diamond, who is worth an extraordinary amount of money. He doesn't have a golden fleece. It's his genetics that hold the value. He is a particularly impressive example of a Texel Lamb, a breed that originates from a small island off the coast of the Netherlands. In late 2020, a consortium of farmers bought him for 350,000 guineas, the traditional currency of livestock auctions. When converted, that's £367,500. $490,500 per €411,300. Don't get me wrong. It is an obscene amount of money to pay for a sheep. One of the consortium of farmers who bought him told BBC News. We had to pay that amount of money to get the genetics. The world's most expensive farm animal. Well, it beats the most expensive sheepdog, Kim the Border Collie, who was bought for £28,455. $38,900 per €33,300. In Wales in early 2021. But there are cows and bulls that go for more. One of the most famous to sell for an eye-watering sum is Missy, a female Holstein who was bought for $1.2 million. £865,000 per €1 million.
In 2009.
But even she has been eclipsed by her male counterparts. In 2019, an Angus bull called Sav America 8018 was sold to a former advisor to the Trump administration for $1.51 million. £1.1 million per €1.27 meters.
The reason for such a steep price?
The high value of this bull's semen, which can be sold on. An agricultural journalist at the auction described the privilege of meeting Sav America 8018 in person. As soon as I went to open the gate, he came walking toward me, and sniffed my hand.
He was as tame as a dog.
His sheer power, width, and body were incredible. He stood on a big foot. With great substance of bone, a bull that will go down in history as one of the greats. But the farming industry is not the only domain of human life you will find staggeringly high
prices paid for animals.
Some people will pay a great deal of money for their pets. Even the average pet can now command higher prices than a few years ago. In the UK, the price of dogs has shot up during the pandemic, with some breeds of puppy now selling for £3,000. $4,160 per €3,500. If you were to include the lifetime cost of feeding a dog, plus veterinary bills and other costs, pet owners are paying tens of thousands. But the record for the highest sum ever paid for a dog is far steeper. 10 million Chinese yuan, for a Tibetan Mastiff called Big Splash. That's £1.1 million at today's exchange rates. $1.55 million per €1.3 million. The Mastiff breed has become something of a status symbol in China in recent years. But the high price paid by a businessman who made his money in coal could also have been an investment, since the dog has the potential to be hired out to other breeders. What about cats? Among the priciest domestic breeds is the Savannah Cat, which can cost almost $20,000 for a kitten. £14,400 per €16,900. Guinness doesn't hold a record for the most money paid for a cat. And as far as BBC Future is aware,
no domestic feline comes close to the million-plus sum paid for Big Splash, but there are some
cats that could rival him if you used other measurements of value. According to Guinness, the wealthiest ever cat was Blackie, who in 1988 was bequeathed a £7 million fortune. $9.7 million per €8.2 million. After his owner, an antiques dealer, died and decided to snub his family. That said, there was a dog, Toby, who once inherited more, a whopping $15 million. £10.8 million per €12.60. In 1931 from his owner Ella Wendell, who was the last surviving member of a wealthy New York real estate family. But if you look at wealth in terms of earnings, the internet star Grumpy Cat, real name Tada Sauce, may be the frontrunner in the most expensive pet category. By some, admittedly hand-waving estimates, she was worth around $100 million. £71 million per €84.5 million. Before she died. Or there's musician Taylor Swift's cat Olivia Benson, which has been given a similar valuation. However, the most money that's ever been shelled out for an animal, at least according to Guinness World Records, has been for those that can race. By weight, the most expensive animal in this category would be a bird. The most expensive pigeon is New Kim, which was sold to an anonymous bidder in China known only by the pseudonym Super Duper, for €1.6 million. $1.8 million per £1.4 million. In late 2020. But perhaps unsurprisingly, it is racehorses that command the highest prices. Guinness names the horse Seattle Dancer as the priciest. Bought as a 1 to 2 year old in 1985 for $13.1 million. £9.4 million per €11 million. Sadly, Seattle Dancer would not have a stellar career.
He caught a virus, and only competed 5 times.
Since then, other horses have sold for more. Fusici Pegasus, for example, was bought as a colt for $64 million. £46 million per €54 million. In 2000. He fared better, winning 6 out of 9 races, earning millions for his owners,
but didn't live up to his potential in terms of the quality of his offspring, again demonstrating
that horse racing is a gamble in more than one way. As of late 2020, he had been relieved of his duties and was pensioned. What about wild animals, though? Is it possible to work out how much they are worth? There is a way, but it's fundamentally different measure of value than market rate. And the two shouldn't really be compared. Over the past decade or two, scientists have attempted to put an economic value onto ecosystems by calculating the services they provide to human beings,
from the food or resources they provide to more indirect benefits,
such as carbon sequestration, pollination, or recreation and tourism. The total value of the biosphere's ecosystem services is therefore estimated to be up to $145 trillion a year. £104 trillion per €122 trillion.
At a local scale, the calculations are generally done for a whole ecosystem, coastal wetlands,
tropical forests and so on. So, the median value of coral reefs, for example, has been calculated at around $200,000 per hectare per year. £144,000 per €168,000.
Or it's done by the service provided.
For example, the global value of insect pollination services for crops has been estimated at around $180.500 bn a year, £129.360 bn, Euro 150 to 420 bn.